Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Doing the Job Correctly. I unload oil trains at a refinery. Union Pacific is the railroad that delivers our oil trains to us. Our rail yard has pipe walls, hoses and drip pans at every spot, each a rail car's length apart. Union Pacific is supposed to line the tank cars up correctly so they match the pipe walls and drip pans. They didn't this morning. They spotted one of our trains so incorrectly that I had to drag the drip pans all the way from beneath the wheel tracks to beneath the center of the rail car. But if the drip pans were that far off, that means the pipe walls were too. They were so inaccurate that the hoses wouldn't reach, so I had to haul 3 spare hoses all the way from the storage closet to the far end of the tracks. That took 45 minutes. Federal Railroad Administration law requires that we set the handbrake on every rail car, but we don't. Union Pacific puts the handbrakes on the first and last, and we just leave them like that because we are relatively lax over here. And I was told that Union Pacific hates having to undo every single handbrake. I think you can already guess what I did. I mean, I'm supposed to, right? The next story is called Evening Shift. I was a teenager and had a job at a hotel as a busboy in a coffee shop. We had about 95 seats, and on a Saturday and Sunday we would do about 400 covers. It was busy, but it was good. Afternoon things would slow down, so I would jump into the dish pit and help them catch up. One Sunday the back of house manager and the general manager were having lunch and they called me over. They asked me to take the next Saturday's evening shift in the dish pit. I reminded them that weekends were pretty busy and they would have a problem if I wasn't buzzing on breakfast. They told me they would get someone to cover bussing, but they really needed me in the dish pit that Saturday night. I agreed, but told them that I would need to leave at 11 PM on the dot as I relied on public transit to get home. So there was no way I could work late. They said, no problem, and we had a deal. I showed up at 3 PM to absolute chaos. Guess who they had cover bussing? That's right, the dishwasher. The pit was absolutely stacked with dishes, and then I found out why they needed me on that shift. Banquets and the coffee shop used the same glassware, plates and cutlery, and there was a massive banquet going on upstairs. When I got there, the cook line and the banquet crew were going nuts, prepping and setting up tons of centerpieces, place settings, that sort of thing. We had bussing carts and the banquet crew was loading them up and running them up the elevators to the banquet hall. It was pandemonium. The back of house manager kept yelling at me, I need more forks, right now. And I was fishing through the dozens of bus pans from the day shift, trying to get him the stuff he needed. It took a while, but I managed to get it for him. I took it with a grain of salt, since he was actually a pretty good guy, just stressed to the max. Finally, the banquet stuff all went upstairs, and I could clear the backlog. It took me until about 8 PM. Then, nothing. There were about 400 people attending this banquet. Occasionally, I would see a member of the banquet team come down and I would ask them where the dish carts were. These guys treated me like crap and snapped that they would bring them down when they had a chance. Sure enough, it was about 10 PM when the parade of banquet bozos started wheeling cart after cart of dirty dishes in by the pit. There were tons of them, 30 or 40 at least, and none of the bus tubs were sorted. It was all just tossed in. They weren't even scraped into the trash, there was leftover food on lots of the plates. Just before 11 PM, I see the back of house manager talking to his crew. I went up to him, as I was really set off. What the heck am I supposed to do here? I asked, gesturing to the carts. Wash them, he snapped back. There's no time, I'll leave in 15 minutes, remember? Well, you'll just have to stay late. I can't, I have a bus to catch. If I miss it, I miss my connection, and that's the last bus. So, no, I am leaving, and told you that last week. He starts getting irate, and I just took off my apron and left without a word. The next weekend I arrive for my busboy shift and I get called into the general manager's office. The back of house manager was there, and the general manager is asking me why I abandoned the dish pit in such chaos. As it turns out, nobody on the banquet crew would work the pit, and in the morning there was nowhere near enough dishware and cutlery for the coffee shop. The dishwasher they had covering took one look at it and quit on the spot. They had to close the coffee shop and lost out on a ton of money. I just looked at them and reminded them that when I said I would take the dish pit for that shift, that I would be leaving on time. It's not my fault that the banquet crew didn't start bringing down the carts until after 10 PM. The general manager looked at the back of house manager and asked him what time they served the meals. 6 PM. So you are telling me that your crew took over 3 hours to roll the dishes back downstairs and you didn't do anything about it? What the heck were they doing? Why didn't you assign 1 or 2 to push the carts? Then I pointed out that all the carts weren't sorted and that the plates weren't even scraped. The back of house manager gave me the stink eye. The general manager excused me and said to head down to the coffee shop and pick up the bussing. The following weekend I came in and there was a big notice targeted at the banquet guys. All bus pans were to contain only one item. 1 pan for dinner plates, 1 pan for side plates, 1 pan for glassware, another for cutlery. All dishes were to be in the dish pit no later than 15 minutes after being pulled from the table. All plates were to be scraped off excess food waste before going in the pan. The banquet crew was angry that they actually had to do their jobs. And the back of house manager was angry that a lowly busboy / dishwasher put him in the hot seat. They never asked me to take an evening shift again. The last story is called How to Destroy a Bad Management. About 10 years ago I worked for a famous wholesale club that usually prides itself on good working conditions and treating its employees well. The specific location I worked for happened to be a rather large exception to that rule, as it would turn out. I worked in the suburbs west of Detroit for this wholesale club in the deli department for the better part of 2 years. My job was, among other things, skewering the chickens, preparing entrees and performing the nightly cleaning procedures. If you know anything about this wholesale club, you know that they have very detailed and very thorough procedures for just about everything. They care about their customers and they care about doing the right thing in general, even when no one is looking. Or so I thought. During the 2 years I started noticing certain patterns that felt not just unfair but possibly dangerous or hazardous to the well-being of employees and or customers. A couple of examples among dozens of others. I was told to look past off-colored / bad-smelling raw rotisserie chickens and to just do my job. Then I was written up for clocking out 1 minute over my shift, even though I was rushing to complete all of the sanitation tasks in the prep area. And I was written up for requesting the wholesale club's company policy about how fast a satisfactory employee should be expected to go when preparing entrees and cleaning the deli. My manager bucked the official guidelines and would always make me perform 10% faster than my previous week's performance. This was probably so she could cut more hours and send us part-timers home sooner, so it would cut down on expenditures and she'd look good. Given my place in life, I absolutely needed this job and couldn't afford to lose it. So I tolerated everything that I felt was odd or perhaps egregiously unfair about the work environment. But I wrote everything down in a journal when I came across an instance where I thought, that doesn't seem like the executives of this company would approve of that. But now, at the point where I had another job offer, I felt slightly more confident and less likely to slip into my subservient spineless worker facade. About 2 or 3 days after I had tendered my 2 weeks notice, one of the lead people of the store called me to the main office while I was working in the deli. I walked up to see what they wanted. I was given a packet of paperwork that was tantamount to an exit interview. It had questions many of us have all seen before in an exit interview. It also had a space for extra comments. In this space I put that I had some concerns about some of the safety practices, disciplinary measures, adherence to corporate standards and general demeanor of the worker morale within the deli department. That's all I put. I didn't get salty, I didn't list examples, I wasn't even mad. I was just a naive young adult in my early 20s who thought some companies really cared about certain kinds of feedback regarding well-being and safety of their employees and customers. I handed in the paperwork and returned to my department. About 2 days later, I get called to the main office again. Oh boy, maybe they want to hear my feedback and concerns, I thought. When I arrived at the office, the same lead person who originally handed me the paperwork had a puzzled expression on her face. She told me to step into this super tiny office where they had the security camera monitor stored. Inside was a small desk and 3 store leaders. The assistant manager, the store manager and this lady. They all told me to take a seat and shut the door of this super tiny room. All 3 of them got really close to me from across the tiny table. The store manager was first to speak. How many years of experience do I have being a manager? Probably a lot. Seems like you know how to run the store. Right, I've been here, points to name tag, since some year in the late 1990s. So, would you say I have what it takes to know how to reflect on all of the things needed to operate a wholesale club like this? Yeah, likely that you do. What are you getting at? How many years of management experience do you have? None. Okay, how many years of deli management experience do you have? None. I work as an associate. Right, so let me ask you, how would you know how to run a deli if you don't have any experience as a deli manager? Never said I did know how. Well, apparently you think you do. I have what looks like very disgruntled paperwork here I believe you filled out. It says you have some concerns about certain safety practices, disciplinary measures, adherence to corporate standards. That's right. How can you know what is truly concerned in the deli department if you have never had experience as a deli manager? You just told me you have no experience as a deli manager. I didn't know what to say. The reason we called you in here today, everyone in the room folds their arms in unison, is that we know you overthink stuff. We don't pay you to think. We pay you to show up and work. And while you think your comments and so-called concerns are legitimate, I can assure you that your remarks instead come across as disgruntled and highly out of line. It would be a shame if a future employer called us for a reference check and we had to tell them that you were a highly disgruntled employee. Therefore, we are going to give you this opportunity to rewrite your paperwork, and we will pretend like we didn't even see this paperwork. This way you can rest assured we don't have to mention anything about you being disgruntled to any future employer. One of the other people slides me a fresh copy of the same paperwork. I agree to rewrite it. They leave me alone while I begin to rewrite the paperwork. When I get to the comment section, I write, "Everything was absolutely perfect about my experience here, and there's nothing but good things that I have to say." This is what the 3 managers told me to put after bringing me into a tiny room. They said they were giving me the opportunity to rewrite this paperwork after my former paperwork. Previously, I pointed out that I had concerns about the deli department. They said that it would be interpreted like I'm a disgruntled employee if I submitted that copy of the paperwork. I turned in my new paperwork without saying anything and walked back to my department. I didn't return to work after that night. I came back to shop a few weeks after starting my new job. The store had entirely different management and the deli manager was long gone. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories in today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. And I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.